This is the job I hate the most simply because the model just stinks so much. But as most of you know, tropics' biggest problem is drywood termites in particular. So we're covering this lovely plank job with some termite fluid to make sure that no insects ever get to come and destroy all my hard work. We just leave that to dry, and when it comes, we'll put some wipe-on poly. It's interesting how either the wood or the wipe-on poly has darkened over time and really looks fantastic and blends in the various colors of the wood. So I expect the same thing will happen on the top, and eventually these surfaces will match perfectly. Now we take this off and see how well it bent. And it's really a perfect bend. You see, I'm going to have to do a little bit of adjusting on this corner here, take it down a little bit to get a nice fit on the waterway and on the end here. And again, just for the last of the non-believers, so here's that bend. No water at all used on it. And again, 99% of the bend is already in place, so just putting it on the model and putting the final bend in place. To get a good fit, we're using the plane, which gives us a nice clean line when we're trying to put the bend in place. Again, just a trial fit. Looks pretty good. So we'll keep working on it and just trying to get it to fit perfectly. This will take a few hours. Then we'll paint the inside red, and then when we've got a perfect fit, we'll stick it in place. I find the angle is a little steep here, so I probably should have done this more before I put the drain in. So that might make the upper edge of the drain a little wider than it should be, but to get a good fit I need a flatter surface rather than a slanted surface. Now I've prepared the other side, and there's a technique that I forgot about. If you look at how nice and clean this edge has lined up, and this ledge isn't quite as nice, and that's because when I was putting this piece in, I shaved the inside part just a little bit off, so it's sort of pointed, and that allows me to get a better fit when I put this piece in. So I'm going to try and clean this up, but if not, I'm going to end up taking this off and refitting it. Yeah, so you can see that's much better. Nice, tight, clean line. It turned out the reason for this little piece that you're seeing here is not as nice as clean as this It turned out that the reason I'm getting this little look here is when I shaved the edge of the frames, I may have taken it back a little bit too far from the drain. So to solve that problem, I have some coffee wood dust, which I keep. I keep dust of all the different woods, juniper, greenheart, in containers, so that I can mix this, and I mixed it with some PVA glue, wet the surface, and used it as a filler. So I have to come back and just put a little more in there, and that will disappear. So that piece might be a little wide, but at least it'll disappear, and you won't see it, compared to this piece, which is just simply perfect. We have finished installing all these various boards in between the grills, and there's really no reason to go through that with you. That's relatively straightforward. Just need to clean it up, and then we can start working on this rather interesting challenge. It's very seldom you'll see me go through something that I've already made a video on. But this build covers my challenges, and I was really struggling in the last few days to make the galley cowl. In fact, I'm now working on the fourth one, and they all relate to soldering and challenges I had using soft solder. The simple argument is the soft solder was a disaster. And of course I should have known better, because the truth is I went and I bought lots of silver solder so that I wouldn't go through these problems. And this is typical. I have very soft, medium, and hard. And the problem comes up when you're making a piece and you put two pieces together, and then you have to add a third piece to it, and in soldering that next piece, the original solder joint releases. And as we've discussed before, certainly in video 102, 103, maybe even some of 104, by using the solder with the highest temperature range, you can come down and keep adding pieces using a softer solder each time, and then the original solders that you use would not melt. You might be able to see this is the latest one, which had reached the stage where I had made up the whole piece and I was putting the handles on, and I actually got the first one on, and when I went to put the second one, it all melted. So that was pretty disappointing. And so I said, look, let me stop with all the soft solder and let me go to the very hard solder. And in fact, I've done that, and here it is. And I mean, it's really a fantastic join. So now I'm going to just cut it down to size and clean it up. And once it's okay, I'll start to put the handles in, which I have redone. And I'll use medium to put the handles in. And so I'll have 3 different temperature solders on the piece, and hopefully that will produce a perfect piece. First, I'm going to use the Jim Barnes saw just to cut the pieces off. These are not the final cuts, these are just approximate cuts. And now we put that back in the pickle. Now the pickle, which just cleans up the piece, so we're just going to plug that in. It's pretty hot already, and in the last video I was trying to get a ceramic cup, as I broke a few glasses. I've now got a ceramic cup. So we just put this in here for 10 minutes and it'll clean it up. It looks absolutely perfect. It's a little pink, but that's the copper coming out of it. But no, you're going to have to just redo this little edge at the top here. So again, we're just heating up the piece. And you'll see, if you look at the flux, it goes from a liquid to a solid. You can see it bubbling there. And what the experts tell me is you'll see it turn back to a liquid again, and that means that the steel around it is hot enough to melt the solder. And again, we're not trying to heat the solder, we're trying to heat the piece of brass, the pipe, which will then, that will heat the solder itself. And that's when you get that, the solder to flow perfectly. Now we're just going to leave that, let it cool naturally. Then we'll put it back in the pickle, and hopefully this time we've got the solder flowing down in that crack. My level of frustration was caused by me forgetting that I had to get the piece up to heat, which is somewhere between 11 to 1300 degrees Fahrenheit, before the solder would flow. So I would see it ball, it turns into a little ball, and that's because the heat went on the solder and not on the piece. So again, it's just reminding us of the key techniques of soldering. Now we'll drill holes on either side, put the two handles in, and then solder in the little piece that allows the flap in front of the cowl to move, to let more wind in or let wind come out. So now I'm going to make up the baffle, and I've got this 8mm punch. There we go. Now, courtesy the turbo cover, we're going to put two very small starter holes. We have the center line off of this drawn. We have the center line of the horizontal piece drawn. And here we have one of the many million questions that ship modelers face. How do you drill a hole that lines up perfectly? And that is, you make a jig. So the first thing we do is line up the first one, which I've marked. So we just go and drill that hole. So now we're going to put a pin in there and drill the second one. It's lined up perfectly. So there are the two holes, spot on. That's supposed to fit in there, and it does. Perfection. So now we do the same thing on the other side. That one is not as perfect, but still it fits. so we might have to just twist it a little bit. The first thing we do is you put a tiny amount of flux where we want it to flow. And in this case, we're using medium. We're going to put that medium, if we can get it. So again, what you're looking for, this time you should be able to see it, is you can see it going white. That's the flux going white. And that's it getting hard, all the water evaporating out of it. And now we're starting to heat up the piece itself. Well, that was quite an exercise. And the only way I'm going to get better at this is really to practice, practice, practice. I have a great deal of respect for jewelers now who do hundreds of these joins so fine that you can't even see them. Here is the completed cowl, and this is the baffle. And I'm going to put them and blacken them now. And then I'm actually going to stick them with epoxy so they'll fit together and look fantastic. No short, I mean, here two baffles, here's a cowl fully melted, just so many pieces, trying to get the ring on, melted, quite a few of these. David suggests that once completed, and we fitted it and everything is perfect, that we take it off the model and only put it on when we're putting all the final touches of the various components on the decks. So I'm glad I've got that under my belt, and we can now move on. Now we're on the last of the forecastle fittings, where we're building the forge gear bit. And I'm not going to take you through it because, in fact, in video 80 and 81, I went through how I made up these pieces. So again, there's no need to cover it. If you're interested in how I do this, you can just look at both those videos in the past. And this one is relatively easy to build. Again, I did use the mill to create the slots, and there are brass sheaves inside the fittings, and she'll fit right here on the model. There are some eyes that need to be installed before this is stuck in. There are 4 of them on the outside line here and 1 right here facing a different direction. So we're just going to clean this up, paint it, and of course put the eyes in and then stick it on the model. I will probably put at least 1 pin on each side to make sure that it holds firmly in place. And now put the last piece on the forecastle. Again, we're using PVA. Easy to place, easy to clean up. And I'll put a little weight on that so it's nice and tight. And I put in these last 4 eyes that, again, time to do that is now. And that concludes the exercise of cleaning up and putting all the various bits and pieces on the forecastle. Just thought I'd take the time to thank the 800 odd people who seem to regularly follow my builds. I enjoy making the videos and sharing them with you, and clearly some of you appreciate what I've done. Feel free to make comments. The comments are fantastic. And for those of you who are new to shipbuilding, there's no question that's too silly to ask, so feel free to ask. If I don't know what the answer is, I'll reach out to someone and find an answer for you. The sole purpose of these videos is to share my building experience with you, and that's a two-way street. So if you feel you want to ask something or even question something I'm doing, you can write to me directly by email, which is on the site, or you can reach out in the comment section. So we'll see you in my next video when we start to work on the stern of the vessel. And remember, as always, join me to keep modeling.